As we've been hearing, a pending free trade deal between the UK and the GCC is on the table, which will significantly increase financial ties as well as create new jobs and grow the current trading relationship between the UK and the region. And the deal would unlock even more opportunities for investment between the UK and GCC countries. So it's time now for our first panel discussion on rebooting UK-Arab trade. And just to explain the format for these panels, hopefully all the panelists are aware of this, but each of the panelists will speak for 5 minutes, and then we will have some time for some Q&A from the floor. So please do have your questions ready. We have roving mics around the room. Please don't be shy. So our moderator for this first panel discussion, His Excellency Dr. Khaled Hanafy, is the Secretary General of the Union of Arab Chambers and Professor of Economics and International Business. He's held several governmental, academic, business and consultancy positions, most recently the Minister of Supply and Internal Trade in Egypt. Please welcome Dr. Khaled Hanafy.
Thank you very much. It gives me a great pleasure to be here today attending the second summit, the second Arab-Rich Summit. We attended the first one in 2019, and I believe that we are going to attend the third and the fourth in the future. Linking the Arab world with the UK is not new. That's why the session titled Rebooting the business and economic relations between the UK and the Arab world. We've heard that today in the opening session, the speakers were talking about the history of the business and economic relations between the two parties and the potential and the intentions for having better, more business in the future, specifically when they highlighted the FTA between the GCC and the UK, which is really important, as they mentioned that the GCC captures almost 80% of the trade with the Arab world. So if this step gets finalized, this means that there is a great opportunity for this. Anyway, this session will be organized in a way that my colleagues, the panelists, will have discussions, as mentioned, 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll have some comments and wrapping, and then if there is time, we are going to go for some Q&A from the floor. We are going to start by Mr. Ramy Jallad. He's the CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone, RAKEZ, in the UAE. And the floor is yours. I believe that we are very happy to hear from you as here GCC party and how this will fit in the overall agreement between the UK and the GCC from one hand. And I believe also that when it comes to economic zone, we're talking about some opportunities, we're talking about some logistics, we're talking about investment. As always, we say that the idea is not just having more trade or more business or more traditional, classical exports and imports. This was in the past. The future should be different. The future should be in the form of a strategic alliance. So what we expect now is not just to continue on the same way of tackling the business. We need something different. And I believe that the Arab world, we have some countries get ready for having different pattern of doing the business with the UK. Emirates is one of them. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be here. Actually, I think it's a very appropriate title as well, Rebooting UK Arab Trade, but I see it from a different angle as well, and I think wonderful things were said this morning, and I think we're all aligned. There's a new way of thinking, there's a new order, but there's a new way of conducting business and trade. And I think one of the reasons is that we've seen our populations are growing, the younger generation is taking over. SMEs are starting to become and have always been a critical part of the industry. But I think with COVID, we've seen that there's been a lot of, one of the things that I've seen personally in coming to the UK and what we're experiencing is a lot of interaction between academia, industry, and SMEs. And I think that's led to what's happening around the world with innovation in business, innovation in technology, and providing solutions for a lot of problems that we've all been experiencing during our lives, whether it's in energy or in Industry 4.0 or even in R&D, in fintech or in medtech, agrotech. So a lot of things are changing, and I think this rebooting theme is really an eye-opener and an opportunity for obviously enhancing, I would say, the relationship between businesses, trade, companies, SMEs, between the UK and where I'm from, obviously the UAE. We see that a lot happening. It's always welcomed, a lot of the SMEs coming over there, the reforms that are taking in terms of livability and the ways that people are now able to move, live, and conduct trade is something that we see rebooting or helping this reboot in business opportunities. And I think that's really where we see a lot of changes in the market. I think one thing that was said earlier on is moving to partnerships. I think there's an equal opportunity for investment to take place from the UK into companies over there that are into education or into innovation or into new ways of doing business. So that's one angle that I see you can start to reboot. And I see a big change in focusing, especially on the SMEs who are very mobile today. A lot of them are called nomads and they move around. They can be all over the Middle East, all over the GCC as well. So it's how we can facilitate the best ecosystems for them to conduct trade and to open up opportunities, because without these opportunities from larger corporations or from the projects or investments that are done on both sides, you will not see those SMEs coming to become part of the supply chain, part of the innovation, part of the R&D. So I think that's really where I see one of the key advantages of opening up and having this relationship between the UK and the GCC and the UAE as per se, because I think there's a lot of innovation happening between academia and industry in the UK that we can tap into. And that's really very evident where you see a lot of the new products, new services, new technology stemming out of that collaboration. And I think this is an area that I'm passionate about, actually, but I think this is something that we should keep an eye on, and I think this is the way of the future, and that's shorter than 5 minutes, so this is my 5-minute sense. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being generous in time, number one. And of course, there are very important points here highlighted, some keywords, which are innovation, entrepreneurship, SMEs, education, artificial intelligence. So we can think of this as an ingredient for the future. We need the chef to solve this, as I mentioned, in a different way of doing the business with the UK. I believe that the readiness, as mentioned by Mr. Ramy, in the Arab world and specifically in the GCC and more specific in the UAE, this readiness shows that the opportunities are great, yes, and the opportunities are different from the past. And should be highlighted and should be recognized when we reboot, because rebooting here means that we might go a little bit in a different direction. Thank you very much for this. Now we are going to move to Mr. Mohamed Musharrakh. He's the CEO of Sharjah FDI office in the UAE again. And here we're talking about FDI. And of course, from the title, it seems that they are welcoming, they are hosting the investment, which is mentioned here as part of the strategic alliance that we expect from this type of new relation between the Arab and the UK. Mr. Mohamed, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Khaled, first of all. I'm so happy and glad to be here, and allow me to express my condolences for the people of the UK for the loss of the Queen first. So I think having this number of audience today resembles that the reboot of the economy between the Arab world and the UK will witness a great potential in the near future. I mean, and having two panelists from the UAE as well sends a message that the UAE as well is looking forward to a great future in doing business between the UK and the UAE. So currently in the UAE, we have around 2,000 UK companies, and we in Sharjah have around 500 companies of them. Once we came back actually from the, let's call it a COVID break, first thing we did was to revise the focus sectors and the high potential sectors that the Emirate of Sharjah will focus on. And as per the study, we came up with 7 sectors that we are going to focus on, which is innovation and technology, aquaculture and agriculture, logistics and transportation, education, food security, and tourism. So these are some of the areas where we are actually looking forward to work with different UK companies. We also have a very good presence when it comes to the UK-UAE Business Council. It's a very active business council, and we have actually attended a couple of events, and we met a couple of UK partners with the UAE partners through that council. There are a couple of UAE investments that have been done in the UK in the past few years. Some of them are by Dubai companies, which is DP World. Then some are done by Masdar and Mubadala, and we have seen some in the sports sector actually. So we look forward to for more partnerships between the UAE and the UK in particular. In terms of the Emirate of Sharjah, again, we are also focusing on entrepreneurship. We have a couple of initiatives actually to boost our entrepreneurship ecosystem. We look forward to have more entrepreneurs also from the UK to come and open their companies and to benefit from the legislation that we have during the COVID area. The UAE has changed a lot of its legislations. One of the main things was to allow foreigners on their companies 100% out of the free zones, and this was a major change for us. Another thing was the visa legislations, where we introduced different visa regimes like the golden visa and the green visa for freelancers and for entrepreneurs. I think all of this will help the UAE to be a hub actually for UK companies to come and use the UAE as hub for them to access different Middle East markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, the same message, that things changed. Mr. Mohamed mentioned 7 main areas of investment, and he focused in most of them on services. And then the entrepreneurship. So we are talking about something different. When we talk about the GCC now, we are not just talking about trade of tangible goods. We are talking about different model. The model here is a hosting model, which is a model that based on a strategic alliance, that dealing with the knowledge, dealing with education, dealing with the 4.0 revolution. So there is something different. And accordingly, the UAE here, according to Mr. Mohamed, is welcoming the investors, specifically the entrepreneurs, the youth, so they believe in the future with the different models. Thank you very much for this, Mr. Mohamed. Now we are going to move to our third panelist from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Marc Saroufim. He's the managing partner at Akeel and Partners. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. First, thank you very much for the Chamber to be invited at such a prestigious event with all the esteemed panelists as well as attendees in the audience. As was mentioned, I'm the managing partner at Akeel and Partners. It's a law firm based in Saudi Arabia. The first time I had a chance to speak actually at the Chamber, it wasn't specifically at the first Arab-British Economic Summit, but it was at the ABCC back in 2019. And the scope of the talk at that time was basically investment in Saudi Arabia and how it had changed and how it had become easier in order to attract investment. And this is before really the big rage around Vision 2030, which other esteemed panels talked about, came to the forefront globally. Now we're 3 years later, and even more changes have happened on the ground in Saudi Arabia. I'll start small. I'm from a law firm. We're going to talk a little bit about the legal aspect of things. We are a local law firm with a cooperation with a global firm, but at the same time, the importance of this event here and the easing of trade and the foreign investment from the UK that we've seen at our law firm has been, well, for lack of a better word, has been tremendous. The growth over the past couple of years, even during COVID and post-COVID, has been pretty impressive, to the extent that just at this event, I have 2 other partners with me here in the audience. Our chairman, Dr. Akeel, another one of my partners, Mr. Arif Saeed. And essentially the importance of that is that this market is seen as key to drive investment in Saudi Arabia and to be an example for other companies in other regions to do the same and other countries to do the same. Why? We talked about Vision 2030, but a lot of the panelists focus more on the investment side of things, okay, on the finance part. The legal part is essential, but you need 2 things, in my opinion, for a country to drive investment or to make it easier. 2 specific things. 1, the vision, and B, the legal structure as well. Obviously, there's other aspects that are key, but the vision, Vision 2030. Essentially, it's the vision of Saudi Arabia to wean its economy off of, oil and to diversify itself. It doesn't happen overnight, and the government has realized that and is doing it in stages. So we've all seen projects like Neum, projects like the Red Sea Development Company, Amala, Qiddiya. You have projects in Saudi that are on such a large scale that they're called giga projects. Now, why is that essential? They're not simply tourism projects, a lot of them. A lot of them are smart cities. We've just recently been asked to develop codes for smart cities, which is new globally. It doesn't really exist, right? So it's kind of, it's new, and Saudi is driving that. It's driving that with international consultants, a lot of the consultants being based in the UK, okay? You also have these projects provide for different sectors to be available to invest in, from healthcare to education to aviation to the industries, logistics. I mean, it's really, there is no sector that isn't affected with the vision that the kingdom has put in place. We'll talk more in detail later, but I don't want to overstep the 5 minutes that I have. But on the legal side, what I want to say is I've been in Saudi Arabia since 2010. So in the 12 years that I've been there, okay, from getting a company, a foreign company licensed in 9 months, when I first arrived in 2010, it took 9 months, okay? Now, your foreign investment license is provided in as little as 3 days. In as little as 3 days. There's other processes that happen after that, but I won't bore you with all that and the details and so forth. But the vision is there, the legal structure is there. Is there still a little bit to be implemented? Of course. But what we're seeing is a drive to make investment in the kingdom seamless, to make it on international standards while always maintaining the local culture and the local way of doing things. So I'll stop there because there's a lot more I can talk about on the legal side, but I'm sure panelists may have questions later, so I'll divert back to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marc. Vision is the starting point, yes. This dream that could be achieved by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 2030. The vision is very modern vision, as you mentioned. It's talking about restructuring the economy partially and having an economy which is not dependent on one or two main products, but diversified in some industrial and more some service-oriented economy. And I believe in the vision mentioned that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is aiming at achieving $100 billion of exports of non-oil exports, which is something that should be recognized by everybody here. And as mentioned by you, the mega projects over here like NEOM and others, all these projects show to what extent the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are going for smart cities, and the vision should be rationalized, as you mentioned, by the legal framework. The legal framework here is very important for transparency, for disclosure among whoever deals with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I believe that there is a great changes in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and in the near future we are going to see not just different country, but I believe the whole region will be changed. And again, rebooting the relation means that we have everybody here to recognize that we're talking about different Arab worlds. Thank you. Let's go to the other side, which is North Africa, which is Libya. So in Libya, there is a different message that we can hear from Mr. Anwer Abusetta. He is the president of the Tripoli Chamber of Commerce, and he's going to talk about the Libyan economy and how this could be integrated in the relation between the UK and the Arab world.
شكرا دكتور خالد حنفي على إتاحة هذه الفرصة. كما نشكر كل القائمين على الغرفة العربية البريطانية لدعوتنا لحضور هذه القمة المهمة لنمثل فيها غرفة التجارة والصناعة بطرابلس. الغرفة الحقيقة حريصة على المشاركة والتواصل مع الغرفة العربية البريطانية، وفي الفترة الماضية قامت الغرفة بإرسال مجموعة من رجال الأعمال في شهر سبتمبر الماضي للالتقاء بنظرائهم من رجال الأعمال في بريطانيا وغرفة غرب لندن والغرفة العربية البريطانية، وهذه اللقاءات أثمرت العديد من الصفقات التجارية، والحمد لله يعني في تواصل جيد، وكان يعني في ثمرة لهذا التواصل. ومن هذا المنطلق نسعى إلى تقديم الأفضل وبحضور أكثر. وحرصنا في هذا الملتقى الحقيقة أن نوجه الشكر لوزير الاقتصاد في ليبيا السيد محمد الحويج لدعمه للغرفة التجارية ولدعمه للمشاركة في هذه القمم. ومن خلال هذا الدعم قمنا باستدعاء أكثر من 25 رجل أعمال لحضور من ليبيا من مختلف التخصصات لحضور هذا الملتقى المهم. غرفة التجارة والصناعة بطرابلس هي أكبر غرفة تجارية في ليبيا، تحتوي على أكثر من 100,000 منتسب متفاعل مع الغرفة. كما نعلم جميعا أن منطقتنا خاصة تمر عدة تقلبات مما أضعفت النشاط الاقتصادي، ولكن النشاط الاقتصادي الخاص يكافح ويناضل من أجل النمو ومن أجل مستقبل زاهر. فالحركة التجارية والاقتصادية رغم الظروف مستمرة، وقامت بالظهور في الفترة الماضية. أثبت القطاع الخاص في ليبيا وجوده وقام بتفعيل عدة مشاريع متوقفة. فالمواطن المستهلك يحتاج يوميا لمتطلبات، والمتطلبات هذه يجب على القطاع الخاص أن يواكب هذه المتطلبات، والقطاع الخاص بشركاته بجميع تخصصاته مستمر في العمل، والحركة الاقتصادية الحمد لله لم تتوقف. ومن استحدثت الحكومة الليبية في الفترة الماضية، يعني بعد تحرر القطاع الخاص في ليبيا، جسم جديد لدعم القطاع الخاص ولمشاركة القطاع الخاص في تنفيذ المشاريع الحكومية. فاستحدثت شركة جديدة بمسمى PPP Private Public Partnership، وذلك لتنفيذ مشاريع الدولة بمشاركة القطاع الخاص المحلي والدولي. ومن حرص هذه الشركة حضرت معنا برئيسها اليوم لهذا الملتقى المهم والحمد لله. لهذا الحركة التجارية في ليبيا الحمد لله ما زالت مستمرة، والنشاط الاقتصادي مستمر رغم الظروف، ونحن نواكب كل التطور الاقتصادي ونواكب الشركات الفعالة في ليبيا ونشكرها على دعمها رغم كل هذه الظروف. ولنا يعني دراسة مستقبلية لدعم الجيل الجديد في ليبيا بنقل المعرفة، ونتمنى من المنظمات الدولية دعم الجيل الجديد بنقل المعرفة النهاو لليبيا والتدريب والتأهيل لمستقبل أفضل إن شاء الله. وشكرا على الإصغاء.
أستاذ أنور أبوستة، الحقيقة طرابلس بتنتمي ضمن مجموعة دول عربية أخرى، طرابلس ليبيا، إلى فريق هو بيعاد إعماره ويعاد تأهيله للعودة إلى الاقتصاد العالمي. الاقتصاد العربي هو اقتصاد به بعض الدول التي سبقت وحققت طفرات ونجاحات، وبه بعض الدول التي تسعى الآن إلى تحقيق تغير كبير، وبه بعض الدول في مجال إعادة الإعمار. وكما ذكرت يا أستاذ أنور أن الحياة بدأت وفقا لما رويته تعود لطبيعتها في طرابلس، وأن الآفاق كبيرة جدا في هذه المدينة وهذه الدولة ليبيا، لأن هي زاخرة يعني كما تعلمون بمصادر طبيعية كبيرة جدا وبطاقة كبيرة جدا، وفرص العمل فيها قد تكون مختلفة عن العمل في دول عربية أخرى، لكن الآفاق فيها كبيرة. I think now we can wrap up this session, and then if there is anyone from the floor wants to comment or have a question to any of the panelists, he or she are welcomed. I see here someone is raising the hand. Yes, please go ahead. Yes? And then we'll wrap up. Okay, go ahead. Yes? Introduce yourself kindly.
Sir?
And a microphone. Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for your excellent presentations. I noted from this morning's presentation from Simon Penny that GCC are the main players here, and the big opportunity, it seems to me, is in the rest of the Arab world, the non-GCC countries, especially in North Africa. My name's Alan Rides. I'm from West London Chambers of Commerce. We're looking forward to welcoming Tripoli Chamber of Commerce to our offices tomorrow. Can you please tell us how we can overcome the challenge of growing North Africa to being at least the same size of trade with the UK as GCC? Thank you.
Of course, I think Mr. Anwer can answer this regarding North Africa, as you have a business relations. تفضل.
شكرا جزيلا على السؤال. بالنسبة لشمال أفريقيا، طبعا التغير الجيوسياسي في الفترة الأخيرة جعلنا نفكر في تعبيد الطرق الصحراوية من الساحل إلى دول جنوب ليبيا. ليبيا مثلا في حوض البحر المتوسط لديها 2000 كيلومتر على الساحل بحر الأبيض المتوسط، وتعتبر بوابة تجارية مهمة لأفريقيا. فعدة دول أفريقية تحدنا ليست لديها موانئ على المتوسط. ومن هذا المنطلق نجد أن لتحفيز الدول الأفريقية إلى التواصل مع نظرائهم في أفريقيا يكون عبر بوابة ليبيا، لأن ليبيا لديها ساحل كبير ومتواصلة في تواصل مهم مع كل الدول الأوروبية، وحجم الاستيرادات في ليبيا حجم كبير جدا بغض النظر عن عدد سكان ليبيا. فعدد سكان ليبيا مثلا 6 مليون مواطن، ولكن حجم الاستيراد إلى مئات الملايين. مئات الملايين هذه أغلب الموردات إلى ليبيا تذهب إلى ليبيا وإلى دول جنوب ليبيا اللي هي الدول الأفريقية. ومن أفضل المشاريع حاليا هي تسهيل وتعبيد الطرق الصحراوية لتكون ممر آمن من الساحل إلى الصحراء إلى الدول الأفريقية، ودعم الشركات التي تعمل على تجارة العبور بتسهيل الإجراءات الجمركية ورفع بعض التعريفات الجمركية للإكثار أو التسريع للاستيراد الكبير من أوروبا.
شكرا جزيلا. I think this answers your question, because actually the main issue over here is the infrastructure challenge in Libya and some other countries. But Libya could be considered one of the gateways for the UK to Africa, specifically, as mentioned, for the landlocked countries. So this is the message here from Mr. Anwer, and I really believe in this. Any other question over here? Any comments or question? Yes, please.
Bidur from Kuwait. I was surprised that I know it's hard right now to discuss that after the pandemic about this situation, but I was shocked that I didn't find anything regarding the women entrepreneurs. I hope that you just focus on the challenges that we are facing as women. And there is a lot of women here. So we have to be part in this. Thank you for this.
I'd like to.
Thank you. You'd like to comment? From my point of view, of course, I really understand this. And let me tell you that as the Union of Arab Chambers, who represents the Arab private sector, we have some initiatives for women entrepreneurs. And you can consult the chamber in Kuwait about the events that we do for women entrepreneurs. Plus, we have what we call it a rally for Arab entrepreneurs. And we are not discriminating in gender. So in many of the cases, the women are getting the lead and they are winning. So the opportunity is there and it's open. So kindly consult the chamber in Kuwait, and through the initiatives that we carry on the Union of Arab Chambers, you are going to find a lot of events related and forums related to this. Anybody wants to comment on this?
Yeah, I'd like to actually say that. Thank you for reminding me about something very, very important, which is We've been a forefront leader in the UAE in terms of encouraging women entrepreneurship. And I can give you some examples. During my day job, what I'm responsible for as the group CEO for the economic zones in Ras Al Khaimah, we've always encouraged women entrepreneurship, where we've made even special incentive packages to encourage women to establish their own companies, whether they are starting from freelancers, SMEs, or even going up into the manufacturing, general trading, and corporate sphere. So it's been an integral part of the entire UAE to encourage women entrepreneurship, to incentivize women entrepreneurship, and I think till today, when we launched this program pre-COVID, we've managed to have some successful startups, some very startups that went to market, and as well as approximately more than 2,000 women entrepreneur companies have set up during that time. So I think that a very critical part of our obligation is to ensure that that is driven through industry, through trade, and actually it's been most of them that I've seen have been even more successful in the SME space than the other startups or SMEs that have come to the market recently in the last 3 years, and we keep a track of that. So you have a point, and thank you very much for reminding me of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allow me
Yes,
to add
yes,
something.
go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead first. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So everybody here is contributing in the women issue.
So,
Okay.
so I would like to echo what my colleague Ramy just mentioned, that we are in the UAE are very much into women entrepreneurship. We in Sharjah have a special program under Sharjah Businesswomen Council for women entrepreneurship, and I will be very happy actually to link you with them. End of November, they have a very special program, which is Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival, and there they have different sessions also focused on women entrepreneurship, and we will be happy to see women entrepreneurs participating from not only Kuwait, from the entire Arab world. Thank you.
And just to add, also thank you again for your question. It is a very important topic. I'm just going to speak on a smaller scale than my colleagues, of course, for a larger forum like Ras Al Khaimah and Sharjah. But on a smaller scale, our law firm, for example, and I'll speak about Saudi Arabia in general, but the majority of our fee earners, I'm not counting support staff. If you count support staff, the percentage is even larger. Our fee earners themselves, the majority are female, and they're 60% actually. 60% of our fee earners in our firm is women. I can safely say two of the three essentially top associates we have are both female. The clients that we receive, and this is also for in general throughout the Riyadh market and Jeddah and so forth, a lot of the entrepreneurs are Saudi women, foreign as well, but a lot are Saudi women now. The empowerment of Vision 2030 for women is not to be understated. I mean, what goes off in media is basically, the recent the recent allowance of women to drive, for example, and so forth. Yes, I mean, that made global media. But people living in Saudi have noticed a big change as the empowerment of women on the business front, from CEOs to entrepreneurs to trainees, in law firms, in financial institutions, and in industry in general. So this is just on a macro scale.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your question again, and just addressing the floor that the perception in the Arab world has changed now, because I believe in many of the Arab countries, the contribution of women is even more than the contribution of men. Right. Even in governments, in some cases, we have more than 8 or 9 ministers in one cabinet. And in the universities, the professors, the majority are women. In the legal system, in the entrepreneurship, in startups. So this is just to announce to everybody here that the Arab world is a little bit women-oriented society now, which was not the case maybe in the past, but there is a great changes over here, and maybe in the coming forum we're going to talk about the men's rights Yes, you're... Really? Okay, so the Kuwait here is a good example for being pioneers in giving the rights to women. And I believe this was some years ago. I believe in giving the rights in the parliament and in many other aspects. 2005. Okay.
To thank Saudi Arabia for taking the charge. And at the moment, it should be in a position where we need to support each other because we have a biggest threat, which we all are facing, which is the rise of political Islam. Political Islam has no place in this world, let alone in the Arab world, in the Middle East. The religion, with all respect, should remain in the mosques, and any mullah should have no say whatsoever in believing military delegation or anything like that. They have to be contained within their places and work on humanizing society. Thank you.
Would you kindly introduce yourself, please?
My name is Ahlam Akram. 10 years ago, I initiated an NGO so far. I'm struggling in it and for it, which is Basira for Universal Women Rights. And the whole idea with Basira is to build a bridge of understanding through women, because we are the one who understands. We don't differ in any way in our aspiration and in our security for our children and a better future, neither east or west. And the only way for that is reform of family status law here, because it saddens me to say that it is creeping here in this country due to the rise of political Islam and the increase of Sharia councils, which so far is not regulated. And that is a danger which we all face. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm afraid, I'm so sorry to...
The last comment to Dr. Ghassan here.
Can we have a brief comment, because we're actually running quite over time, and it's time for a quick coffee break. So just a brief comment, please.
Very brief. The name is EJ. I just couldn't really listen to this without saying something. I know the Gulf states in particular, and I was born in the Arab world.
Would you like a microphone? It might be...
Right. My comment on everything was going here. I think there is still a much more effort to be done by the ladies in the Arab world themselves. I think the government structures now throughout the Arab world, for years in Egypt and Syria, they allowed this to happen. But now it's up to delegations like you, or people like yourself, to encourage women themselves to change their ideas about their role in the world. There are some who are vocal, but beyond you, the vocal people, there are others who are not. I don't want to take more time, but I'm ready to discuss with you afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think there's a great opportunity now during coffee. I can see she would like to come back to you on this point. So please, please let's say thank you to our panel for such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. And